Taking your dog to the vet is something that every responsible dog owner will have to do. Even if you get really lucky and your dog never gets ill, they never get injured, they never eat anything that they shouldn't do, regular checkups are still an essential part of a dog's life. If you want to set yourself apart from the other owners when you go to the vet though, there are definitely things that we can do to make these visits easier on yourself, on your dog, on the vet, on everybody involved. So let's take a look at getting your dog prepared for the vets here on the School Doggery YouTube channel. I'm Matt, and as ever, if there's anything that you would like to ask or think we should cover, then come and find us on all good social medias. We're at School Doggery everywhere, and don't forget to subscribe to us here on YouTube. It's worth getting your dog used to being touched and poked all over as soon as possible. When they go to the vets, they are likely to get prodded and inspected in all manner of ways. So it doesn't matter if you've got a young puppy or an older dog and you're just finding this, it's worth making a start now. If we spend some time getting them used to being touched, we can help the vet to do their job. When I've taken Freddie to have his glands expressed, which is definitely one of the more invasive regular procedures that dogs have to go through, these checks that we've done with him helped us get through that experience. Having their glands expressed, if you don't know, involves the vet putting their finger somewhere back there, giving it a squeeze and getting some pus and some dirt out of there. Because Freddie was used to being inspected and he knows to look to me for help and advice, instead of kicking up a fuss the first time this happened, he just gave me a look of, "Dad, is this normal? What's going on?" And all I did was just gently reassured him, told him he was being a good boy when he stayed calm, and that helped them to just get on with it. So to practice for things like this, there's definitely some simple exercises that we can do at home. So what we're going to do is make sure that your dog is brought up to the same level as you, ideally onto a table, so that you can kind of simulate the experience of being at the vets. The vets probably won't, unless you've got a huge dog, get down on the floor with them. They'll want them up on the inspection table. This also kind of helps restrict their world a little bit so that you can keep them on task and they don't get too distracted and wander off. So the first thing that you're going to do is what I'm doing here with Baker. Gently rub your hands down the back of their neck and the back of their head, pretty much as if you're just giving them a bit of a stroke to start off with. So this is just a normal experience for them. Then we just gradually start to move around to the front, and again, run your hands down their chest, over their stomach, and gently down their legs and down their forearms. Once we get to the end of their legs, if you can just gently pick their paws up, this is going to start us on the next part. What we're aiming to be able to do is to be able to pick their paws up and inspect in between the pads of their feet so that we can get any dirt, any rubbish that's in there and get it out. If they get something stuck into their paws, this will definitely help get them used to you helping them in that situation too. The first few times you do it, you might find that they won't let you pick their paws up, or they might let you pick their paws up, but they might get a bit funny if you touch their nails. They probably almost certainly won't let you spread their webs apart and get a good look in there. But we can do this and build it up over time. We're not trying to push them to be uncomfortable. There's no race to do this. We're trying to get them used to it slowly and learn that nothing bad happens. So if the first time you do it, all you manage to do is just stroke down and just go over their paws, that's a great start. If they start showing signs of discomfort, move on to the next part and just gradually build it up nice and slowly so that they start to learn that nothing bad's going to happen. To get them used to the glands being expressed, make sure that you can lift their tail slightly as well, as this is a strange sensation for a dog, but again, the more we can get them used to, the easier it's going to be later on. Make sure to give their ears a good inspect and look at their eyes, and definitely get into their mouth. Lift their lips slightly so that you can inspect their gums and inspect their teeth. Try to do this once every couple of days when they're young, or even better, once a day. Keep the sessions short though, and definitely make sure that you reward them for all that good behaviour. We're aiming to desensitise them to all these different sensations that you're putting them through. This will make vet trips much more bearable and easier for the vets to check your dog over. If you can, it's best to try and do things like this while your dog is sleepy and tired. A tired dog is a lot less likely to cause a fuss. So we can use this time to teach them that nothing bad happens when they get checked over. So next let's move on to eye drops and ear drops, which are other common things that you're going to need to do with your dog that they probably won't like the first few times that you do it. But as I often say in these videos, we might not be able to get them to love these things, but we can hopefully get them to tolerate it. If you've got a dog that's got long flappy ears, then skin irritations can definitely happen in there. They get sweaty, and in the folds of the skin all kinds of things do start to grow, so we need to be able to give them a regular clean. Cotton wool soaked in some kind of ear solution, gently wiped around the inside of their ears, should be enough to clean out the muck and dirt that accumulates in there. Similarly with eye drops, all dogs are liable to get allergic reactions to things in their eyes, especially when they're going through fields in spring and summer, when there's all kinds of pollen, seeds, dirt, everything that's getting hit into their faces as they run through and enjoy it. So if we can get them used to having their eyes cleaned like everything else using the processes that we've described, we can help them in that situation too. Stay calm when you're putting things in and only reward them when they stay calm. Now, a common mistake that I see a lot of people making when they're doing this kind of thing is pandering to them. You may think they're going, oh, it's okay, don't worry, you'll be all right, it's okay. It's going to help them, but all you're actually doing is raising the excitement and the anxiety levels in the room, and that's not going to do anybody any favours. They don't know that the words that you're saying are intended to comfort them. They just know that you're acting weird and that the stress levels have gone up, and they will pick up on that. Dogs are experts at picking up on our body language and what we're putting out there. So if we can stay calm, keep our voice nice and low, keep our body language nice and relaxed, they're much more likely to pick up on that and stay calm too. Now, when it comes to flea treatment, there are several different ways that you can go about this. Some people like to use flea collars, which are just you put the collar on and there you go. Always follow the instructions on the packet. I've never used one, so I don't know the ins and outs of collars. The method that we use for dealing with fleas is we use a droplet method on his back. The same principle applies with staying calm and not causing a fuss. It's something that he doesn't like because it's a cold liquid that's being dropped down his spine. But if you're going to use a droplet-based one like us, it is best to do it just before bedtime. Again, so that they're slightly tired, but also it has the bonus effect of cleaning their bedding out as well. When they go into their crate or into their bed or basket, wherever they sleep, if they've got a cleaning fluid on them, it's going to get into their bedding too and hopefully catch anything nasty that's lurking in there. Now let's talk about taking pills. This one will definitely vary from dog to dog to dog, and you may have a vastly different experience to what we have. In fact, I hope you have a different experience to what we have, and let me explain why I say that. There are some dogs out there, like Baker here, who will just eat them like sweets.
Good boy. Good boy. Yeah, he's a good boy. Go on then. Oh yeah, good boy. Good boy.
That is easy mode for a dog. Baker is such a good boy for just taking them happily. No tricks, no coercion, no nothing needed. Some dogs might need a little bit more persuasion though, and that's where we can go to the old stereotype of wrapping it in a piece of cheese or a piece of ham. Lots of dogs will accept this method and will quite happily eat the treat without realising that they've taken their medicine. If you're really unlucky though, you may end up in a situation like we've ended up with Freddie. I love him to death, but he is a proper pain when it comes to taking pills. He will not just take them out of your hand, and if you put them in a treat, that doesn't work either. We've wrapped it in food, given it to him, and 2 minutes later he's eaten all the food around it and there is a pristine pill left there on the floor. We tried grinding it up into his evening meal, but he knew something was amiss and he treated his bowl with suspicion. He knew that there was something different in there and he acted really strange around his food and then just wouldn't eat for a couple of days because he didn't trust the bowl anymore. Were we trying to be dastardly and sneak him some medication without him knowing again? So now, unfortunately, we've had to resort to the reverse of the cat lion meme of "what have you got in your mouth?" We have to do the opposite of that. Instead of trying to pull something out, we're trying to push something in. As a side note, if they made these pills cat poo flavour, I'm sure Freddie would instantly hoover the damn thing up. So, what do I mean when I say the reverse of the cat meme? Basically, we have to open his mouth just by gently squeezing at the back because he knows what's coming and he does not want to play ball. Gently open his mouth, push his head slightly back and put the tablet as far into his mouth as possible. If we just put it at the front, he will just spit it out. So it has to go as far back as possible. Keep his head up like this and then just gently hold his mouth shut. There's no need to push hard or anything like that. Use as little pressure as possible. Just to hold his face up and then gently rub his throat just to encourage that swallowing motion. What we're aiming here is to get him to swallow it. Over the years, though, this has led to many different standoffs, with me having to hold his head back for what felt like hours at a time, his dribble coming all down his face and chest, all down my arm. I'm not gonna lie, it can get pretty gross, but it's something that we knew we needed to do for his own good. And if you do end up in a situation like that, it is important that you do not give in. If you relent at any point and just go, "oh, we'll find another way," and let them spit it out, all that the dog learns there is that they just have to hold their nerve for longer than you and they'll get what they want. You need to be able to hold your nerve longer than your dog because you know that it's for their own good. Honestly though, we potentially did make this problem ourselves by overcomplicating it in those first few months when we knew that he needed to take it and we were worried that he wouldn't have the protection and he'd be susceptible to things if he didn't take the pills. So we may have accidentally created this whole song and dance routine ourselves. So it's always worth trying to offer it them first and not immediately hiding it or making a fuss. Potentially even try several different brands of these pills because different brands have different textures, smells and taste, and you may find one that works. This is definitely something that I am going to do different if we have a puppy again in the future. So now let's get on to something that every dog owner will almost inevitably come into contact with, and that is the good old cone of shame. If you've got a male dog especially, this is something that you should find that you have to use quite early on, because in my opinion, it's on every responsible dog owner to make sure that their dog gets neutered. In fact, with male dogs, most daycare facilities and dog parks won't let a dog that's older than 1 year old come into their facility if they aren't neutered. So it is something that is definitely worth working on and getting them used to the cones as quickly as possible. Now, at first glance, cones can definitely look impractical and look like they're going to hinder a dog's movement. But because they are a necessary part of treatment and dogs can get used to them, it's something that we need to practice. That doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy process, though. Here's some footage that I really struggle to watch, and it's of Freddie when he just got home from being neutered. And he's got his cone on and it pulls at my heartstrings every time that I hear him crying. This is the sound of a truly upset dog that doesn't understand why he feels sore downstairs and now he's got this great big hindrance on his head. But we knew that it was for his own good, as it is dangerous to allow a dog access to a fresh wound. If they start licking at it, then they could potentially open that wound up, they could cause infections and just make things so much more worse for themselves. The following days after this, once he got past the initial stage, we tried to experiment with different solutions. So things like inflatable donuts, which act a bit like a cone. They restrict the movement of his head and won't let him get to certain places, but he can move around the house a bit easier and get in and out of his crate a lot easier as well. We also had some great success with a recovery suit once he was a few days further down the line. Recovery suits are a good way of dealing with injuries and infections once your dog has got past that "I'm gonna chew everything" phase. It's definitely something that you want to try and practice if you get the chance to. So here again you can see me working with Baker, and this is me getting him used to having a recovery suit put on and taken off. We're just gradually, slowly, calmly taking him through the process of putting it on his arms, getting it over his head, zipping it up and getting him used to the feel of being covered all over. We're also limiting his exposure to it to short amounts of time so that we can build up the positive associations gradually. We're not overwhelming him with it. This means that should he ever have to wear one or something similar in the future, he won't be dealing with having to learn a new item of clothing and a new injury at the same time. So by putting the time and the work in with your dogs early in life, or as soon as you possibly can if you've not done any before, you can definitely reduce a lot of the stress that they're going to go through when they have to experience these things for real. I'll always preach about setting dogs up properly, and this plays a major part in that. If you want to see some other examples of different styles of vet checks and the things that we've discussed here, then please come and find us on our social media. Don't forget to subscribe to us here on YouTube either. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and please look after yourselves and your dogs.